All right, welcome and thank you for joining our webinar today. Lessons from the field, malware writer's perspective on your infrastructure and response methods with Hacker Enterprise Security MVP and named by SC Magazine as one of the top women to watch in security, Paula Januszkiewicz. You're also joined by BeyondTrust VP of Technology, Morey Haber, who will run us through a brief overview of how BeyondTrust PowerBroker for Windows and PowerBroker Password Safe integrate with McAfee EPO to provide a unified approach to password management, least privilege, and endpoint security. So please stick around for that. My name is Sarah, your webinar host today. A kind reminder to please submit your questions via the chat box in the GoToMeeting console anytime throughout the webinar, and we will cover your questions at the end during our Q&A time. Also, a reminder that today's session is being recorded, and all attendees will receive a link to the recording and the slides shown here today within 1 to 2 business days from now. So now that that's all out of the way, I'd like to welcome Paula to the line. Hello, Paula. Always exciting to have you on our webinars, and please jump right in. I know you have a lot to cover.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and hello everybody. Thank you for your time. As Sarah mentioned, today we're going to be discussing all the different types of exciting malware situations that can surprise us sometimes, and I would like to show you these situations, of course, from the malware writer's perspective. So we're going to be exploiting different types of situations. I would like to show you how malware can be brought to the field, and what is nice to have from the perspective of the malware writer, from the file extension perspective as well. So how we are able eventually to run the certain code in a certain way, and our question here would be, can antivirus, for example, stop us, and what are the issues to take into consideration? So let's start. No time to lose. In general, when we are, of course, discussing our background, just a few words from that. So here we've got what our team does, so you can always check that out. If it's about me personally, I do have access to the source code of Windows, not the full access though, because not many people really have that, but quite a lot, so approximately 99%. That's why we still do different types of research, and one of the things we do as a team as well is researching for vulnerabilities and how, from the malware perspective, so how we are able actually to bypass antivirus protection. If you would like to get more information about that part and you would like to get more experience, etc., then you can have a look at our trainings. So these are the ones that we've got. The ones in January are happening actually in Bahamas. So if you are close by, then you can join us in quite a nice and sunny place. In May, we are running the Hacking Securing class in New York. Everybody gets a discount, of course, who is attending our BeyondTrust webinars. And regarding speaking experience, just a few words. As you see, of course, I'm also speaking at the Black Hat, so that is something to also have a look at. Okay, so we can move forward within the presentation. So our agenda is very straightforward. It is evading techniques, and we're going to be discussing evading live scenarios. A few words of intro for today is that in general, it used to be in the past that we were securing ourselves from the outside threats, and we still do this, but we have developed these technologies quite well so that now we have to focus on things that are happening in the inside all the time, because we do consult customers literally all around the world, literally, and we still do see the same type of problems where the customers are fantastic from the outside, but they lack different types of protection from the inside. One of those things, for example, is code execution prevention. So when we do have different types of ransomware and different types of malware in general, that malware can still run under different conditions at the customer side. And let's move forward to discuss those different types of techniques. So basically, whenever we are thinking about different types of evasion techniques for malware and how the malware can run and so on, let's start with a little bit of theory, and then we're going to switch to practice. Two typical ones, which is a signature-based and behavioral-based. But what is interesting to say in a case of a signature-based discovery, so we know the file, so based on that we are able to say that, yeah, that's this malware, for example. One of the newest approach is to get something that we call IMP hash. So this is the list of imports for the certain type of a file, DLL and so on. And we are able to here investigate that even though this malware is new, it's hot. It has been generated maybe by some malware generation tools yesterday. So none of the antivirus actually knows it. We're able to spot that because of the list of imports. So if it comes from the same malware toolkit and it's generated in the same way, but still it's a different executable, and it even can behave differently, but it still has the same list of imports, that is one of the ways how we are able to spot that. Yeah. Another part, it's a behavior based. And this is one of the classic ones, and it works especially when we combine that with the advanced threat detection, where we are relying on machine learning and things like the correlation. But in general, all the different types of behaviors that are presented by the code, whether it's of course in time, in place, or whether it's with a delay, this is one of the ways how we are able to discover malware over here. So in general, when we are thinking about the evasion techniques, because this is what I would like to focus on, we do have things like wrappers, for example. This is a little bit of an old school solution from 90s, but it's not at all actually, because we still do use those. And we could have, for example, PowerShell scripts under the PowerShell scripts and so on. But in general, this is one of the classic techniques, yeah. And iStock, for example, just one of the examples, is a quite a well-known malware that is wrapped with like legitimate-looking software, clean my Mac, clean my PC, or whatever. So this is one of the cases. And Onion Duke, for example, as just another example, it has been used with a legitimate Adobe stuff, and it has been shared over Tor networks and so on. So in general, we are able to put one code into the other code. Yeah. Now, packers and encryptors, same story over here. We've got the different types of solutions which we could use. One of those mentioned over here, it's Hyperion, for example. Now, the funny part is that how we're able to take and pack and eventually encrypt the file so that it's actually not recognized by antivirus. Because this is a quite ironic case. If I do use Hyperion, which I would like to show you in a second, everybody knows it. Like, everybody knows it. So what's the point? Yeah. So if we know the way how Hyperion works in order to hide the code, then the antivirus companies, they will probably know that too. So in general, our goal for this is to generate a piece of code, and I would like to show you how, when we use Hyperion, so let's just do it now, we're able to, or try to hide Mimikatz, yes, from what we've got over here. So we're going to use Hyperion, and Hyperion, we're going to specify over here the in file. So we've got a Mimikatz trunk, and we've got, in this case, Win32. We could use this one. We could use Mimikatz.exe, and then we can specify over here some piece of code as well. Yeah, some file name. Of course, at that certain point, I will actually, for this certain moment, disable my antivirus. And the reason for that is quite straightforward. It's because, well, it will be actually discovered. So this doesn't work as we would like it to work. But anyway, let me show you. Yeah. So we get a Mimikatz.exe, and then we're going to change it or generate it to kiwi1.exe. And let's see, couldn't load it. I just wonder why, like this, or eventually we could have it over here. So we've got Hyperion. Let me go to the source. I should have it here. No. So what is wrong with this library? If not, then we will just basically generate it in a little different way. So we could also have it this way, and here we go. So we can check basically how that stuff works, and let me just find out. So we've got this one in the tools. Yeah, it should be working fine actually. We can just go over here, dear. So we've got Hyperion. In this case, okay, so we could use it from that level. Yep. Oh, that should be fine. Okay, here we go. Mimikatz trunk, maybe. And once again, we're gonna do Win32 and then Mimikatz for the executable, yeah. And let's see. And at some point, basically, we'll be able to generate a certain type of executable. Why not? Yes. So I can grab this guy and specify over here once again by Hyperion, and then Mimikatz trunk, and then we can do win32, and then Mimikatz. Okay, we got it now. Test.exe. Oh, for some reason it cannot load the deal. I have no idea why. So I was testing it. But anyway, so what's the flow? The flow is that that particular stuff allows us to generate an executable that is recognized by antivirus. And in general, the case it's a little pointless. Yeah. So at some point we are able to, or we are not able to get this particular executable to run. Yeah, so this is the flow. Okay, so I'll try to make it one more time in a different way. So I'll try to put the different types of library once again to be refreshed, and let's see if this could be the case. Yeah. Okay, that was the case. Okay, so something was broken with this particular library. Okay, so we've got a test.exe. Perfect. So I like the live troubleshooting. We can get into this particular path, and we can take the test.exe, which is over here, and find out if this is something that is recognized by antivirus. So I will do upload and scan a file on the virus total. Yep, here we go. And eventually we will verify what's the situation over here. Yeah, so here we are uploading the file, and this is a new file. Nobody knows it. It's just freshly generated, and it's going to take a little bit of time, but then eventually we're going to see that this is either recognized that it has been generated by Hyperion, or in general, we will even be able to see that this is the Mimikatz. Yeah, so there are plenty of options here, but we can see that 44 out of 65 is able to recognize that there is something wrong, just because we use the wrapper or the packer over here that everybody knows. Yeah. So what's the benefit? Well, none. But the benefit is when you develop your own technique, so that you are able to wrap this executable packet and so on in your own way. And this is something that I would like to explain to you in a moment. Of course, there are a couple of other ways how we are able to evade malware, anti-malware solutions. Things like obfuscation, yes, so changing the code so that after compilation it looks different, yes, changing the names of the functions, changing different types of variables, and so on. So in general, lots of spaghetti code that is kind of hard to analyze. Now, anti-debugging, things like sleep functions. So when you run, for example, certain type of executable or any other piece of code, then malware will activate itself after a certain time. Yeah, so for example, after half an hour, this is the moment where the malware actually starts working. So one of them. Now, in practice, what is pretty nice, and this is what I was getting to, it's the technique that we call reflection. So for that purpose, we do have something that we call a reflective PE loader. And the reflective PE loader, this is our invention. You can create your own one. But in general, what is the case is that the compiler doesn't even know what is going to be loaded, because we do have a dynamic loading of the code. Yeah, so the code in general is encrypted. It's loaded to the memory, and then basically we are loading a part of the code and dynamically compiling it in order to execute it. So it's already out there. Now, this can be, of course, blocked too, but when it's written well, it has a very high chance to bypass the classic antivirus engines. And this is something that I would like to show you. Quite an interesting fact, what you've noticed, that if you add the platform 64 x64 tag over here, then it helped us to even avoid more of the antivirus engines to discover us. So let's have a look on how that particular part works. So yeah, so we're gonna take this out, and then let's go to the D drive, in my case, where I have CQ tools, and this is our invention, our tool, which is called CQ Reflective Payloader. And CQ Reflective Payloader loads executable, and it generates the name at the end. So let's do it. We're going to use for that purpose mimikatz trunk x64, and then we're going to do mimikatz.exe, and then it repacks it. Yeah. So this 977 whatever. I just want to show you that it's fully functional. Yeah. So here we go. This is our mimikatz, and we on purpose use the mimikatz that is not a secure edition, so that you can see that that's basically the mimikatz that, for example, we've got from the website. Yes, from the Benjamin's blog. So I'm going to take this 977 something something, and I'm going to put it into VirusTotal, so that you can see that we are well, avoiding couple of antivirus solutions over here. Not everybody though, but still it is working actually pretty well. So I have uploaded to VirusTotal that, uploading 100%, and this is this 977 generated right now. This is the UTC time, and the analysis is in progress. Yeah. And here we can see that a couple of solutions discovered that. Well, I can see that a couple of them here are by accident. They shouldn't be here. Let me just put it, because I know how it works. But in general, yes, this is basically the discovery. Now, it doesn't really mean anything, but what it means, and it's just a matter of working on our solution even more, is that are we able to avoid being discovered at some point? Totally yes. Yes, it's just that we need to know what kind of techniques are used by the antivirus companies over here. Yeah, and it's really a matter of time. Now, what is important to have is the advanced threat detection, that whenever we are using different types of functions, even within the reflection, then this is something that can be spotted as one of the or by one of the anti-exploitation modules. So it's not that completely unblockable stuff, but we have to have some additional solutions to block it. Yeah. Okay, so what do we have more? So this particular stuff was use CQ Reflective Payloader that is a part of our custom code. Now, the other techniques that are used over here, it's targeting. Yes, so when we run a certain type of a malware, then basically we are running it only under certain conditions. Yeah, so if there is a Process Explorer running, or Process Hacker, or Wireshark, or we run it within the virtual machine, etc., then that's the moment where malware, for example, will not run. Yeah, and this is something that is one of the techniques that is absolutely widely seen by different types of malware in the market. Yes. So what's the scenario? What I would like to show you is the situation where we've got, for example, CoinVault. So this is the ransomware from the past, yes, but it's actually quite interesting. So that's why I would like to bring it up, where we are actually using this particular technique, while we are saying that if there's a Wireshark, of course, then basically we're not running different types of code. When there's like virtual machine, then we don't do that too, and that is basically within the code. Yeah. So let me just bring this up to you. So what do we have over here? It's a virtual machine. When I'm analyzing CoinVault, now this is like the further step for analysis. So maybe on one of the other webinars, I will have a chance to show you how we actually are able to go through many different levels of the malware analysis. Here, let's focus on the evasion. Yeah. So we do have here CoinVault DLL, and that's the one that we can have a look at. It has its own so-called resource, quite a typical approach. So this resource is also some part of the code, but it's being encrypted. And in this particular program, so to say, so in the method, we're able to see that there is some kind of an initialized component case, and we do have here an array, and I mean, we probably were supposed to do something with this array, and here we have another piece of code. Yeah, so this piece of code, it's not obfuscated because we have to load it at the very beginning. and it's quite actually simple. And this particular code decrypts this array, and eventually this code in the array decrypts this resource. And eventually we are getting into the point where we do have this particular resource. And what I would like to show you is what do we have inside. So we do have over here the evasion case is maltest user, if you have a look. And then what we are doing, we are checking out if we are running here the Wireshark network analyzer, if, for example, the interface is actually virtual. Yeah, so this is a WMI check for the, as you see, Microsoft Corporation, VMware, and then further down there's a virtual box. So we've got that, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, so if you are trying to be sneaky and analyze this malware, then eventually it will not start. Yes, but of course, since we know how that works, we can try to figure out some other options for running it for the analysis. But this is technically one of the techniques that we can use over here. Okay, fantastic. So what are the other ways how we are able to run different things in the operating system, while at the same time it can be sneaky from the antivirus perspective? Yeah. So one of them, it is of course playing with the PowerShell. So what do I have over here? It's the regular machine, and within this particular machine I'm going to log on as the user, and what I would like to show you is that I am actually a user. Yeah, so here we go. I try to run Task Manager or whatever, and then it asks me for the user privileges. So what we are getting to right now, just for your information, is the evading live scenario. Yeah, so how we're able to run the code and at some point, well, be successful in it. Well, we could use, for example, a vulnerability. So that's going to be the case. This vulnerability is already patched, but it's actually quite interesting because it shows us the scene where, while right now, when we are trying to run something malicious, lots of companies, they start to implement code execution prevention. Yes, if you still don't have it yet, it's definitely a great time to do that. But in lots of cases, that code execution prevention is implemented in a wrong way. So that means we do have, for example, like a gap holes in the implementation of what we can run, for example, from the Windows folder or program files. And the question is here, can the regular user run PowerShell? And if the answer is yes, then we could have a problem. And I would like to show you a couple of things that are actually related with how do we run, execute things by the user. So user can run PowerShell, as you see. I can also show you one thing, that if we do get execution policy, in our case, that set it is restricted, yes? That means that, of course, we are not allowed to run different types of scripts, but what is quite nice is that this is, of course, absolutely bypassable because PowerShell execution policy was never created for blocking us from somewhere. And I would like to show you how to bypass that by exploiting the vulnerability in the Windows 10, yeah? So this is the first thing. Second, let's do it over here. First of all, we're going to run the script. So we've got it in a CQ tools, and this script is called elevate CMD. So I try to run that, and then that says it cannot be loaded because running scripts is disabled in the system. Okay, sounds fair, but this is just about the script. What about the content of the script? So this is what we're going to do over here. So we're going to specify again CQ tools folder, and here we're going to do it like this: type elevate CMD pipe, and then we're going to do PowerShell.exe. So we're running here a selection. So we are typing elevate ps1 file, whatever that is, into PowerShell.exe, and then we do no profile dash, and we got it. So this is how we are able to execute a certain type of vulnerability and bring it on. That works, lovely. And we were a user, but now we are anti-authority system. Yeah? So this is the vulnerabilities scenario. Yeah. Now, whenever we are thinking about the further steps, so how and what else basically we are able to execute different types of a code. PowerShell is definitely a very nice container of not only, of course, a vulnerability, but also stuff that could be used by ransomware. Yeah? So it is again a behavioral approach, and I would like to show you this one. How the certain PowerShell script, so PowerShell.exe, that moves on the disk. Yeah, so this is the flow. Now, how we are able to get into well, some demonstration. Yes, let me just show you the flow, and one of the points of entry. In our case, it could be that the user, for example, gets an email. Yes, and within this email, there could be like a macro or something, and we could disable macros. And even in Windows 10, within the newest release, what's out there, is the possibility to stop creating a child process from Office. Quite a nice case, but it doesn't have to be this way. That's my point. Yeah, it can be, but it doesn't have to. So how does it work in the whole scenario? And this is something that I would love to show you. So another approach. So what I have over here is in desktop, I got docs, and I got secureacademy.1.txt, and this is just text. Okay, great. Now we can open it. It's in a clear text. Now what we're gonna do? We're gonna do the following. User gets an email when there is like a macro, or we don't know that there is a macro yet. Transaction receipt. Someone sends you $100. Okay, so let's have a look at that part. So what I will do for that reason, I will run procmon over here. So let's do it to monitor of what's going on. And here I'm going to specify category is right for the monitoring, because I'm interested what kind of entity in this operating system will be saving something in a disk. Okay, so let's dig in. Let's see the flow. So here I am monitoring all the types of events. So I'm just like showing 2 events because I've got a pretty nice filter out there. And what we're going to do is that we're just going to open this document. Yeah. So this is let's go to the here we go. Let's go one more time to Outlook. This one we can minimize. And Outlook, I want Outlook. Here we go. This is the one, transaction receipt. And of course, it depends on the macro settings. Yes, we can have them even disabled, but user always has a possibility to enable it. Yes, so we just do enable editing. And this is the warning that we've got. Yes, so the macros have been disabled. Okay, user can always do that. Now, if we do have a look at the macro itself, because I would like to show you that it's actually a little tricky, and we go edit. Here we can see that we're downloading stuff from mypaypalservices.com, which isn't, well, it's a real website, but it's not a PayPal's website, encrypt.bin, which is nothing wrong with the bin file, and then we save it to the disk as a LNK, which again, there is nothing with the LNK file. LNK is just a shortcut, and that particular shortcut allows us to run whatever is underneath. So it could be, for example, PowerShell. It could be also CDB, which you guys, everybody has. If you do have, in this case, .NET Framework installed. So this is another way of launching this. So we could compile code in place. So there are plenty of ways that are built in Windows and program files that can allow us to run the code like that. So there's nothing wrong in this scenario in general. It's just a PowerShell that we're going to execute. But let me show you. So let's just close it. Let's just do enable content. Fantastic. So something happened underneath. And our goal will be to very quickly analyze it. So if you go to docs, these guys over here are already encrypted. Yep. And we can go over here to our procmon. We can stop this monitor. Let's just do it. Here we go. Stop capture. And the next part, basically, what we're going to do, we're going to find out of what was actually happening over here. So we are showing 511 events. Some of them we can just get rid of because we don't need to, and they just take our view. Okay, so this one or that one, great. Yeah, so that wasn't much of a gain over here, but we can get more. And in general, we can see that there's like WinWord going on and so on. And eventually, and this is what I wanted to show you, we've got a PowerShell. So what happened is that from this mypipelservices.com LNK file, so, or bin file, has been downloaded. It has been saved as an LNK file, and that LNK file, if we do have a look, so let's go to, in this case, jump to, yep, we can go into properties. This is nothing but my favorite way of running script, which is encoded command, so base64. So we do have over here PowerShell, encoded command, and within the encoded command we give as a parameter, of course, in this case, base64. Yeah, and that is quite long, so we can just have a look at the whole concept out there. So I'm going to just do end, and as you see, base64. So we can do Control-A, Control-C. We can put this in the notepad, and let's do it this way. And this is our encoded command. Now the problem of this is that if we try to decode it, you will not get the full result of what that is. Why not? Because of the problem of Explorer. Explorer window, so GUI in general, so what you guys see in the back over here, allows us only to display the parameters up to a certain length. Yeah. So fantastic, but that's not the whole piece of text that is interesting for us. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to run another notepad. Perfect. So let's just put it over here. And I'm going to take this dx something something, and then we do have here another file. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do edit, and very, very quickly, I will get rid of all the spaces that we have over here just to make sure that this is cleaned. At some point, I'm going to get rid of all the stuff that we don't need for base64. This is this. Yep, this is the base64. And then maybe we can even clean it this way. That is fine, yes, because this is only the pure encoded command that we have over here. And this technically value, this is base64 of what is happening in the back. So you can compare. Yeah, there is a big difference. The stuff on the right is limited. Stuff on the left is everything that we had in this LNK. Now, question of the universe is, for real, what do we have in this particular, base64? And for that purpose, we could use, and this is what I have over here, base64 encoder that we could work on in PowerShell. That is, by the way, my favorite way of doing this as well. So we do system text encoding, Unicode get string, system convert from base64 string, and then we give the string that we have extracted over there. And what do we get as a response? Is this result. So we've got over here a small script, this is for demo purpose, where we are symmetrically encrypting that particular, or these particular text files that have secure in the name. Yeah. So this is the flow that I wanted to show you. So very, very simply, we are able actually to work on running PowerShell and making it quite dangerous for us by, for example, running it as a form of a ransomware, etc. Yeah? So this is the flow. Now, what is the next step that I would like to show you? How else we are able to run the code? It's going to be, and we're going to do it in place for the simplification so that you can see what does it mean to run the code like this. And for that purpose, we're going to run that by using, in our case, in this case, compiler. Yeah. So what's the flow over here? So the flow is that we do have, of course, .NET Framework, and within the .NET Framework, everybody has the same type of a compiler that we are able for that purpose to use. Yeah. And I would like to show you basically how we're able to get this kind of a code into run. Yeah. So we're going to get into the folder in this case, which is of course the .NET Framework, in order to get into CSC. Yeah, so let's do it. So we're going to get into Windows, Microsoft .NET, we're going to get into Framework 64, and then we're going to go to the version of the framework, which is going to be version 4 like we have over here, and we're going to get here CSC as a compiler. If you have a look, this is nothing but the Visual C# compiler. So we are able to give over here a certain type of a code, and the code that I am actually using over here, so this could be done, for example, as a matter of some remote shell and so on. We don't have to be an admin for that. The code that we will be able to run over here, it's going to technically look like this. So let's just do it, type the clipboard text. So we do echo class, and then we've got a program, and then we are specifying, let's just do the word wrapping. Here we go. Tick, perfect. Yep, all the stuff that is necessary for us to download another code. So this is nothing but quickly written wget in order to download the other code. Yeah? So how are we able to do that? Well, I'm going to just get this stuff. Here we go. We can paste it. For that purpose, of course, I'm just saving it directly to this folder. So we could be, for that we have to be an admin, but you can save it just somewhere else. It doesn't really matter. This is for me for simplification. So we've got that. So I'm able to quickly show you this. And at some point, we are able for now to compile it. Yes. So we do it in the following way. Yes. So we specify CSC, and then we specify in our case CQ wget cs, and then we're going to be compiling it into something. Yeah, so we've got CQ wget cs, perfect. Yeah, so this is the moment when we have compiled it, and we can do dir, well, dir maybe for the CQ, because this saves us the file. So this is my 2 days date. So on this machine we've got a 10th of January, and that is basically 10th of January from now on, the file that we have created over here. And this particular file, it's nothing but the CQ wget. And here we are able to download, for example, HTTP from the certain machine that I've got, which is in our case 10.10.10.200 in my lab, and I'm able to download CQ shell, and in this case 104A, and 104A, and I'm gonna .exe, and I'm gonna save it as, just to show you that it works, it should actually, and I'm gonna save it as the shell.exe. Yeah, so we're downloading the whole thing. At some point, what does it say? It's not found. Because I did 104 CQ shell. Yeah, that should be actually working. Yeah, so it says not found, so it also proves that it actually works. We've got a HTTP CQ shell 104. Oh, no A. Okay, here we go. So this is the case, and here, see here we can save for shell or something. We've got a shell.exe. So this is just a confirmation that at some point we're able, for example, to download code like that and then execute it. And this is the code that nobody knows. It doesn't have to be dangerous because it's just a regular downloader. And at that certain point, we are able to attack certain type of a machine. Yes, this is not really exploiting any vulnerability. This is assuming that we are already in place and showing you at the same time that we can generate very easily the code that nobody knows, that is actually quite useful over here. Okay, guys, so what else in general? It's quite interesting over here. What I would like to show you is the situation where we are able to exploit certain type of vulnerability and eventually run something against the Windows client. And that's going to be quite an interesting scenario because this scenario has many stages. I would like to show you technically one of the stages. So for that purpose, we have to set up the Metasploit first. Here we go. And I do have here already 3 listeners. So I'm listening on a port 666.77.888. But eventually, I do have here a Metasploit console running, where we do have we need to configure a certain type of an exploit out there. So another way of how through vulnerability we are able to play with antivirus, but that could be of course if we do have anti-exploitation solution stopped. Yeah, let me show you how that works. So we've got a Metasploit. By the way, this is a custom Metasploit of our secure team, which in this case is working on Windows. So we're going to do it like this, use exploit, and then we're going to specify multi, and then we've got a browser, and then this is our exploit for here for Firefox, and PDF JS privilege escalation. So one of the vulnerabilities as for our concept over here, let's just do enter, and then we're going to do set. So this is a classic for the Metasploit SRV host. Let's keep it pretty 10.10.100, which is our machine over here, and then we're going to do set payload Firefox. So that's going to be using the vulnerability of the Firefox shell, and then we're going to do reverse. I just pressed tab, so here we go, reverse TCP, so we're waiting for that to come out. Payload Firefox shell reverse TCP, awesome. And we're going to do set L host, and then we're going to do 10.10.10.100. Okay, perfect. And then we're going to do set, to make it pretty again, URI path, and then we're going to just do the regular slash, and then we're going to run it on SRV port, which is 80. And then the last thing that is left is run. Yeah, perfect. Maybe not RU, but run. Not RAM, oh my, run. RAM is going to be later. So we've got run, and then server is started. So, well, now question is, how do we encourage some kind of a user to get into this page? Yes, so it could be that we send that link to a user through email, can be, or basically we perform spoofing activities within the inside network. So there are plenty of ways of how we can do that. In general, as the regular user, because that's the point over here, we're going to technically open Firefox. Yep, and we will be maybe spoofed to this particular website. So let me just enter it directly. So 10.10.100, and at some point here we will see that we've got some communication happening over here, sending exploit. And if I do click inside, then this is technically opening us one session over here. Yeah. So this is quite lovely. So we can technically choose the session that we're going to have. So we've got session 1. So in general, let's just get into this particular session. Here we go. So we can do session, and we can do 1. Yeah, sessions. Okay, and 1. Here we go. Perfect. So we've got an interaction with the session 1, and we can check over here. Who am I already? And perfect, we've got the user logged on at a certain level. Yes, so now we can do the same stuff that I was showing you. Yes, so we can leverage the existence of the CST. We can here download using the PowerShell encoded command the scripts, and we are able to run them from there, etc. But what we can do, we can download the code, and for example, we can connect or enforce the connection on the certain port that we are listening on over here, which is a beautiful part because this is a connection initiated from the inside. If you don't manage that within your firewall, if you don't have like a filtering proxy, then this is something that pretty much always works. Yes, within the pen test. Okay, so what we went through are the different types of ways how we're able to play with malware, how we are able to launch malware, and how basically we are able to, or try to, evade different types of antivirus companies by running well, different type of a code. Let's just sum it up. So basically, whenever we are thinking about good protection, then of course what we need is the complete execution prevention and at the same time anti-exploitation solutions. So this is good, and of course antivirus that is based on correlation, and if it's possible to have also a little bit of a machine learning over there, this is a great technology that is widely developing. Sometimes we can use this one for monitoring, but this is not to prevent, this is just to inform you about what's going on. At the end, it's really a matter of a price. So the solution that you're going to choose It needs to be at the same time cost effective, but as I was already mentioning, if you do have a code execution prevention, please do remember about misconfigurations. Yes, in general, in Windows folder, there are a couple of places as well where code can be saved. If you do use access check from Windows internals, just the very last demo before we move forward to the next part of the presentation, you can access check. You can technically specify and check what kind of write access users have to the Windows folder. Yeah, so we can have here -w for write access. So we can do access check, and then we can get -w. And as you see by the help, we're able to check over here. So we've got a access check -w, and then we're specifying username and then the file directory and so on. So let's just do this. Yeah. So we've got our, here we go, access check -w, and then we do specify users, so the local users, to the Windows folder. Yeah, and I didn't do this with the subfolders, which will give us an even bigger result, but just to tell you from that point, user has by default a write access to CWindows temp and CWindows tracing. So the solutions that are allowing everything to run from Windows, they can be considered as misconfigured. And this is something that I would love to show you at the end, what to pay attention to when playing with, well, running the malicious code at some point. Okay, guys, so from my side, this is it. Don't forget to sign up to our training, either in Bahamas in January in 2 weeks, which is a very cool location, you must admit, or in New York, which is even cooler location, in May 7th to 11th, 2018. Now, we would love to invite you there, where we are doing the hacking, securing Windows infrastructure, so very practical training. Hopefully see you there. Don't forget to follow us on social media, which is heroacademy.com, and over there you're going to find more information. And now it's time to for the guys from BeyondTrust and McAfee. So Morey is going to present you the solutions that could prevent of what we were talking about. So Morey, stage is yours. Thank you so much. So we can see the presentation right now. Perfect. And then, yeah, here you are. We cannot hear you yet. Morey, are you there?
Give Morey just a minute to reconnect to audio.
You know that I can speak forever.
Still waiting for him to connect, you guys. Thanks for sticking around. Paula, while we're waiting for Morey to reconnect to audio, I had a couple questions come in for you, so let's go ahead and jump into those.
Totally.
What is meant with import in the behavior-based approach?
Oh, okay. So let me explain. So import in general, when you have a look at the DLL, let me answer this question quite practically. When you're going to download, for example, a software that is called PE Browse Pro, it's free, then just take any DLL and drop it there. And then you're going to see on the left side, there's like a area, column, where you're going to see imports. Imports in general are defined as different types of, we could maybe call them functions, that certain DLL, certain file in general, needs in order to run. So import, it's a list of these functions, and this list of this function is unique for the certain type of a software. So if, let me give you an example, developers are working on a software within the organization, they can compile it many different ways, many different times and so on, but they rather keep the list of those functions. They're just going to change the content of those functions, but they're going to keep them. So the imports hash, it's a hash that is relying on the list of imports that is unique for the certain type of a software, even though the software changes. So this is what we are relying on. If you download Sysmon, for example, in Sysmon you've got the possibility to monitor imports hash for the software that you run. One of the new ways of discovery, because ransomware can be generated from the certain toolkit that you can pay for, and then you can generate hundreds of different ransomware. But in general, it's going to be different, but recognized by the list of imports.
Okay, will you be showing techniques for malware to detect being in a sandbox, for example, FireEye, and refusing to run there? Obviously, your presentation is over, but maybe you could walk through just maybe a point or two if you have any or anything to comment on about that, Paula.
Yeah, totally. Maybe we could just arrange another webinar with the, like an advanced techniques for that purpose within the sandbox. Well, you know, all the solutions that are sandboxing software, they use certain conditions under which they operate. I mean, that sounds quite generic, but that's in general the case. And it's really a matter of know-how, yeah? So that particular know-how allows us to monitor all the different functions that software uses, yeah? So as long as you know what are the weak points, then you are able to go out of the sandbox, yeah? But I would say in the current times, the sandboxing technologies are relatively good, and it's not that easy to actually bypass the sandbox like this. But we could play absolutely, and I got some nice examples already on the top of my head with those techniques, and we could check how we are able to come out of the different sandbox technologies, yes.
Paula, can the malicious code be used to download a RAT or RAT tool or a direct shell to compromise the host, or will AV still catch those?
Yeah, so if we're talking, of course, about the RAT stuff, then RAT, if it's not written by you, then it will be discovered, yeah, because even though we are downloading the code, it doesn't matter. Somehow we have to run it. So there are two things. A, it depends how you run it. B, it depends if it's, but in general, discovered or not. I use this CQ reflective payloader to hide known code from the antivirus perspective. So if we could do this with the even known RAT, then we could run it without being discovered by antivirus. Yes, that's the point. Mm-hmm.
Okay, guys, it looks like Morey is still unable to connect to audio. So at this point, I'm just going to run the second poll. And if you're interested in learning more about the McAfee and BeyondTrust relationship, if you'd like a one-on-one demo to talk with a security specialist here at BeyondTrust, please select yes. Somebody will be in contact with you, and they will schedule some time to walk you through that relationship, what our product integration looks like, and even show you a demo. So go ahead, select yes, and somebody will be in contact with you. So sorry that we were unable to get Morey to jump on, but you know, that's what it's like sometimes when we do these things live. If there are any other questions for Paula, go ahead and submit them now. Thank you to everybody who has already sent in questions so far. We love our audience and how inquisitive you guys are. And I will just leave this up for just a couple more moments. So here's one that came in. What about Sysmon? What discovery techniques does it have, Paula?
Well, regarding Sysmon, it has the possibility, for example, to discover all these different techniques that could be used as a part of the exploitation. For example, create remote threat, or basic one which is opening the process, or loading something, loading different types of DLLs, or modification of the metadata, or, well, writing in a registry is not a biggie, but playing with pipes, so raw access to the disk. So all these things can be used as a part of the malware behavior, especially when we are thinking about Mimikatz and how it works, and for the fact that it can extract credentials from LSAS. That basically is relying on two things: one, open process, and then it depends on the version of Mimikatz, creating the remote threat, which is a classic. And antivirus solutions, they block it if you do enable anti-exploitation module. Yeah, so this is the flow.
Paula, have you seen any AV catch this type of attack yet?
Yeah, absolutely, because it really depends on the modules, yes, that you have enabled within the AV. First of all, Mimikatz is known. Secondly, you can build a Mimikatz that is unknown, yes, so that's the case. Now, if the AV has a possibility to monitor, for example, process opening, so open process function, or create remote threat, then yes. But then again, depends on the modules within inside the AV.
Okay, closing down the poll. Thanks, guys. And last question for you, Paul, and then we'll wrap it up. Is NTFS alternative streams still a problem as resource destination, and is it handled by those solutions as well?
Got it. Yes, it is still a problem, but it's less of a problem than it was in the past. And alternate data streams absolutely are handled by the antivirus companies because it's a known way of writing stuff to them. Yeah, so that is something that is to be recognized as a malicious behavior.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for all your questions. A reminder that you will be receiving an email with a link to the recording and the slides within 1 to 2 business days from now, and it will come from our email alias, communications@beyondtrust.com. So be on the lookout for that follow-up. Thanks again, Paula. I would thank Morey if he was on the line and he was able to show his slides. But thanks, Paula, for being here today, and thanks everybody for sticking around through our technical difficulties. And as always, we appreciate your time and being here. We hope that this was insightful for you, and we will see you guys at the next one. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.